The Chiropractic Philanthropist, Episode 244.
What I meant was being fearless to me means having the courage to do the thing that scares you.
Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
My guest today on the Chiropractic Philanthropist is Peter Scott IV. Peter is the founder of the Fearless Life Academy and the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Fearless Mindset. Since the passing of his father in 2010, Peter has left his lucrative investment banking career to dedicate his life to mentoring entrepreneurs to overcoming their fears that are holding them back from making the impact and earning the income they desire. He now leads exclusive groups of high-performing entrepreneurs through 3-day Fearless Life experiences, where they discover the peak performance rituals required to conquer their fears and create the life they only dared to imagine. And so before we get to Peter Scott IV, I'd like to go ahead and thank today's sponsor, and that is innate.biz. If you love chiropractic philosophy and history, then you need to check out innate.biz. Over 20 hours worth of the most powerful recordings from BJ Palmer himself have been remastered and are ready for you to enjoy. Every purchase supports chiropractic history, and you can get an extra 10% off by using the code TCP10. Innate.biz is the only place you can find this collection. You can go there today, listen to some samples of this powerful, amazing work. That's innate.biz, B-I-Z. And don't forget to use the code TCP10. Peter, how you doing today?
Doing amazing, Ed. Thank you for having me. I shared with you before that I have such a passion for the chiropractic profession that it's truly an honor to be able to share my message with your listeners.
Yeah, and I know we may get into this, we may not, but we met for the first time at a mastermind, and I recognized you right away. By the way, I knew who you were, and I'm like, man, you would be a perfect guest for TCP, bringing unique value, tons of value for chiropractors. So yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show today. Now, for those who are just learning about you for the first time, tell us, who is Peter Scott IV?
Yes. Okay. Great question. Well, I have to start with my mission, because that's the thing that gets me out of bed every single morning. And my mission, my purpose in life is to literally transform the way the world experiences fear. I believe that fear is the one thing, the only thing that stops us from taking action and from creating the results that we want in our life. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because my entire life has been consumed by fear. I mean, I'm going to do this in a very condensed version, but when I was 10 years old, I had to sit down in a courtroom and literally look into my mother's eyes and tell her that I no longer felt safe living with her because of her alcoholism. And I mean, just imagine having to do that, Ed, as a 10-year-old, or imagine your kids having to say that to you. Like it's one of the most devastating experiences in life. And yet at 10 years old, I had no idea what sort of impact that would have on me, but it led me to literally live my life operating from feeling fear of rejection, of judgment, of not being enough, of not being loved. And it created this existence of inauthenticity. I, would become anyone that anyone wanted me to be just to seek their love. And I started my career in investment banking, which was a great education in business, which I was passionate about, but I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable in that career, working 100 hours a week, crunching numbers behind a computer. But I was in it because of, I got approval from my family for being in it. So moments like that, an event happened to me when I was 25. My father passed away very young. He was 60 years old. And I remember asking him why his health deteriorated for about a 5-year journey. I remember asking him why he chose that because I knew he had a choice. Just like all the Kairos listening, we are in control of our actions and our environments and what we do with our health. To be a victim of it is something that I just don't believe in. And I asked him why he chose to do that. And he said, because he was consumed by fear. He was afraid of not living up to his parents' expectations and literally chose to give up on life and drink himself to death. And when that happened, that was when I made the decision to never let myself, a loved one, or anyone I come in contact with be controlled by fear. And it's really what led me to do what I do today.
I mean, that's a completely relevant discussion to chiropractors, I think, in practice, and maybe especially the chiropractor who's early in practice. I know for me particularly, I mean, and you hit it when you said, fear of rejection. That was a big factor when I was in practice and building my practice. And just simply when I sat down to give recommendations for care with patients, it was like, are these people, out of fear of rejection from that patient, they would reject what I was saying and telling them.
Yes.
I wouldn't give them give them the truth. You must hear that a lot.
Absolutely. One of our biggest kind of what I call an invisible script, something that runs us unconsciously, is that fear of avoiding, that we're avoiding confrontation or we're avoiding rejection. And so we don't share our truth so many times. And this, of course, shows up in business, but it also shows up in our marriages, in our families, in other areas of our life, in our health and fitness, where we try to live this certain way to be accepted, right? And I believe that life is just too short to live for other people's approval. And when you take a stand, as a chiropractor does, for somebody's health and wellness, it's your moral obligation to speak about the topic that you are so passionate about. I mean, lives are literally at stake in this profession. And I love talking to chiros because of how committed you are to saving lives, literally. And so if you let that fear of rejection or that fear of failure stopping you, it's literally a disservice to humanity. And I think that chiropractor that's just starting out or within the first years of building their business, they need to constantly remind themselves of that, because failure is unavoidable. Rejection is unavoidable. Like, anyone who has done anything big in their life has gone through moments, so many recurring incidences of setbacks. And the difference is that's why they're successful, is they continue to do it, continue to share the message, continue to push through the resistance that was there. If you avoid that resistance, you're going to be keeping that message and that movement inside of you.
Is there such a thing as being fearless? Like, I mean, is that even possible?
Great question. So here's how I look at fear. When I say being fearless, I wrote a book called The Fearless Mindset. When I wrote that book, I didn't intend to mean that being fearless means without fear. What I meant was, being fearless to me means having the courage to do the thing that scares you. I believe, Ed, that fear is a good thing, a certain type of fear. And the problem is that, I believe there are two types of fear. There's rational fears that keep us alive, and there are irrational fears that keep us from living. And, I actually learned this one distinction from, I think, a past mentor of yours, Jesse Elder, who's had impacted both of our lives tremendously. And it was such a powerful distinction because it's true. Whether it's the fear that you feel when somebody, you're woken up in the middle of the night and somebody's breaking into your home, or that fear that you feel stepping on a stage, speaking in front of a group. One of those fears keeps you alive. The other one keeps you from living. And the challenge is they both feel exactly the same way. So to answer your question, yes, I think you can be fearless, but by that I mean having the courage, the confidence, and the commitment to just take massive action in the face of your fears.
Yeah, I think maybe it's even just with life experience too, and experiencing more failure, that you become just more immune to fear. Like, I'm certainly not as concerned about whether I fail or whether people reject me, especially rejection. That's just a big trigger for me, is rejection.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm just simply now, honestly, I'm just not as affected by that. So is that kind of like how you, well, I mean, let me make it into a question. Is there certain strategies that you recommend for people who are experiencing these things?
Yes, absolutely. So one thing I agree, like when I look back, um, when I launched my business, I had far more or a far stronger level of fear then than I do now. Yet, like anyone, when you're operating at the edge or outside of your comfort zone, you're going to feel fear constantly. It means that you're growing. So it's a good thing. So how do you shift that? What's something tangible that the listener can take away? Number one is having the awareness of what type of fear is really slowing you down or stopping you. That label that I gave earlier between rational fears and irrational fears, just that awareness alone lets you notice and prepare yourself when you start feeling that resistance. Another really tangible thing that I do, and I believe in actually leveraging the body, Ed. So Kairos will really resonate with this. Leveraging your body as a tool to overcome your fear. I believe that your body is a vessel, a vehicle that can produce power in your life. I'm one of those crazy workout people that loves CrossFit, all right? And that's a very intense workout. But the reason why I love CrossFit is not necessarily because of the physical results that I get it. It's more because of the mental and emotional. So when I finish an intense workout, whether it's CrossFit or hot yoga or anything else, I literally feel unstoppable. And when you start your day prioritizing your fitness first thing in the morning and putting yourself through an intense experience, you literally feel like you can handle anything that life throws at you. And that may be a challenging conversation with your family. It may be, a presentation or a pitch that you're doing in your business. But those fears that you would normally feel if you weren't experiencing the power produced from fitness, they just become smaller and smaller. And that's just one thing. I think certain habits that, yeah, I have certain habits that I commit to every single day around meditation, around fitness, around having a green smoothie every day, that just puts me in this place of peak performance. And then when you do that consistently and you commit to taking action and almost commit to failing, like commit to failing over and over and over again. Like my commitment is to fail as often and as fast as possible, because by doing that, I know that's how I get closer to that success. So through those things of the awareness, the peak performance rituals that you have in your life, and the commitment to action, like when your vision is so big, Ed, that it pulls you towards it, your fears become smaller and smaller. And when you start your day with action, then the resistance begins to fade away.
Thank you for that. I mean, this is an incredibly valuable discussion for chiropractors, and again, a completely relevant discussion for them too, because I think as chiropractors, we do experience a lot of rejection. We do experience a lot of fear, whether it's especially within our business. There's struggle in business because healthcare is a business, by the way. So thank you for that. So let me ask you this question. I mean, if you were to say, Peter, like you had a superpower, what would that be?
I would say that I love this question, by the way. So I would say that my superpower is um, it's taking somebody's vision, okay? Vision for their life. And this includes their business, their family, their body, their spirituality, and chunking that vision down and saying, okay, this may be where you want to be 5 years from now. But what are you committed to doing every year, every 90 days, every 30 days, and benchmarking it so that the vision is no longer overwhelming? So, I have this innate ability to break down this complex vision into smaller benchmarks and then funnel those down even further into daily actions and habits. I'm a believer that our lives, Ed, are a direct result of our daily choices and actions. And if I can help pull somebody's vision out from them and then break that down into tangible, specific, actionable steps every single day, it literally collapses time and accelerate results. It allows somebody to accomplish in 6 months that would take somebody else 6 years to do. And the reason why this has become almost a gift or a superpower, as you ask, is because I've just educated myself on doing this. I've hired some of the best mentors that I know of. I've been a part of a lot of masterminds. I've had the privilege to be, you know, to learn from some of the best, and I've done this for myself because I had to, and now I get to in my coaching and training company get to do it for others.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you that things didn't really accelerate in my business and life until I started getting help.
Yeah.
Like really getting help. Like, and it was, and it's interesting too, because you mentioned Jesse Elder. He was a huge component in taking my business to another level, but it was more my mindset. I think that was a big thing. So, yeah, that's a great knowledge bomb for docs to listen to and to soak up right now today, is that you don't have to do this alone. That there are people like yourself. There are people outside, but particularly, by the way, outside of the chiropractic profession, because that seems to be where we kind of go to when we want help. But I think that some of the best help is actually outside the profession. So let me ask you this then. How about your kryptonite? I mean, if you said, look, Ed, I got this weakness, I got this kryptonite, what would it be?
This is so present for me. The timing of this question is great because as an entrepreneur, and I'm in, say, the first 5 years of my business, Ed. So for the listener to know, my biggest kryptonite right now is letting go of control, is shifting that lone wolf, do-it-yourself mentality that has created incredible results for me in the first 2 to 3 years of my business. Because launching a business from scratch, I was bootstrapping. I didn't have outside investors. I didn't have funding from family or anything like that. I had to build it myself. And so I created the mindset to if I don't know how to do it, I'm going to learn how to do it and I'm going to execute it myself. And that served me tremendously. But what I've learned is that what got me to where I am today is not going to get me to where I want to go. And I've hit a benchmark recently that made me realize it's time for me to start delegating. It's time for me to start letting go of control. And that's challenging for me. It doesn't come natural. And so now I'm seeking mentors. I'm seeking resources, reading books on how to do this, on how to, not how strategy wise. You mentioned a key word, in your last segment, Ed, of mindset. It's not because I lack know-how or strategy. It's literally shifting my mindset to think differently as an entrepreneur, to see the value in paying somebody else to do it, even if they may get only 80% of the results that I could get, but it frees me up to focus on, as Dan Sullivan says, my unique ability. It's well worth the investment. So that's what I'm working through in my life and my business right now.
It's great advice, even just like for me particularly. And I mean, I am so. I got to tell you, Peter. I mentioned this to Alex Jarfin, who is a great mentor to me as well, and he said it's your ego, and he pointed that out very quickly. But yeah, I've actually hired a team to help me, a team of people, and they consistently keep emailing me, asking me to give them work. That's how resistant I am personally to having. To letting go. And I think that's, again, a great knowledge bomb for docs who are listening today, is that we can't do it all ourselves, that we do need help. We do need to rely on others, whether they are able to do it at the same intensity or the same level, because I don't know if anyone will ever be in your business as in the same way that or capacity that we ever would be.
Yes. Yep.
But it still has to be done if we want to expand and grow.
That's exactly right. And I know this to be true. And again, I'm saying this from theory because I haven't done this yet, but I know that there are people out there that love doing certain aspects of my business way more than I could ever love doing it, right? They not only do they love it more, but they're way better than I am. Let's say when it comes to building online systems and paid Facebook advertising, all these things. So what I get to do is to, be willing to just let go of that control and be willing to temporarily fail, because I may make a wrong hire, and that's okay. Like, that's completely okay, because if I let that fear of making the wrong hire stop me from delegating, then I am going to be the greatest bottleneck in my business. I'm never going to create the impact or reach the income that I want to.
And for you, I mean, this realization came just, it seems like very recently for you. Was there any sort of, was there someone who helped you with that, or just that this was something that came to you personally?
Yeah, it was definitely a series of events. I'd say one person, my best friend is somebody named Sean Stevenson that the listener may have heard of before. He speaks at several different chiropractic events throughout the year, and he's been, having Sean as a best friend, but also, as someone who has got 20 years business experience ahead of me, it's a gift because I get to see what he's doing and what he's coming up against in his life. And then I'm a constant listener to podcasts like yours, Ed, to I Love Marketing, to a lot of business podcasts out there. And so I learn from people that, let's say if I'm a six-figure entrepreneur, I'm learning from people that are at seven figures. Mm-hmm. And I'm really dissecting and deconstructing how do they view the world differently? How do they view their business differently? And through a series of events and series of podcasts, I realized that this was the bottleneck. I didn't need to go and learn more how-to information. It's time for me to start delegating to focus on coaching, speaking, and writing. Those are my three unique abilities. If I can focus on just those and free up, and delegate the rest, I know I'm going to take the incremental results that I've had, which have been good, but I'm going to expand them exponentially.
Tell us a little bit about the Fearless Mindset experience that's coming up.
Oh my gosh, thank you for asking. So this is what I'm most passionate about right now. It's called the Fearless Life Experience, and it's a 3-day experience where I take 12 high-performing entrepreneurs. So it's very intimate, but I take them through the experience of facing and conquering their fears. So we do things like go surfing, out in the ocean. And a lot of people have a fear of the ocean and sharks and things like that. I actually had a chiropractor at one of my last events who so afraid to go in the ocean that he wrote me an email saying that no matter what would happen, there's no chance he would go in. Long story short, after the second day, he was able to kind of leap off that cliff of uncertainty and jump in the ocean. And I remember seeing his face, seeing when he was riding that wave. And I remember decompressing after the event. He breaks down crying because he says that for so many years, his daughter has been asking him to take her scuba diving, and they travel all over the world. And she just doesn't understand why her dad won't do it. And he was able to conquer that fear at the event. And now I see his Facebook profile picture, and it's him scuba diving with his daughter, which is just such an amazing thing to think about him having those experiences. But to go back away from that tangent, it's 3 days of experiential events like that. And then also I help people clarify their vision for what they want and break them down into tangible goals so that they have a peak performance ritual to literally accelerate their results. And it's one of the most, one of the things that I'm most passionate about. I have one coming up in October, Ed, so thank you for asking. And if the listener would like to look into it, they can at www.fearlesslifeexperience.com.
Outstanding. And you also have a gift, though, for docs who are listening today as well.
Yes. So as I said, I've been gifted to learn a tremendous amount from mentors. So when I wrote my book, The Fearless Mindset, I interviewed some of the top entrepreneurs on the planet. And what I'd love to do is gift the listener with all of those interviews absolutely free. These are interviews with people like Roberto Monaco, like Garrett Gunderson, like Sean Stevenson, names that I know many of you have heard of, that this is the only place you can get the interview. So if you'd like those for free, you can go to thefearlessmindsetbook.com and download them absolutely free. Absolutely free. It'd be my gift to you.
Beautiful. Peter, what are you listening to right now? What podcasts? You mentioned a few of those, and what are you reading right now?
Great question. So I am listening right now. Some of my top podcasts are, I love Tim Ferriss's podcast. It has so much value to me, which I think is called the Tim Ferriss podcast. Mm-hmm. 10 Times Talk by Dan Sullivan and I Love Marketing by Joe Polish. I love listening to entrepreneurs that view the world differently. It's a huge value add to me. In terms of books that I'm reading right now, it's funny you ask because the book that I'm reading is called, I think, The Virtual Assistant Staffers. Basically, it's about How to Think About and Hire Your First VA. And since you asked about my kryptonite, which is letting go of control, that's a book that I'm studying right now. And I want to leave your listener with this really powerful takeaway, which is we all have countless books on our reading list. So many books that we get suggested new resources every single day. The way I want you to think about what book you get to read next is, instead of taking the first person, the next book somebody recommends, ask yourself, what problem am I committed to solving in my life right now? Mm-hmm. What problem am I facing that I get to solve in my life right now? And then find a resource on that, because it's so easy to from one resource to another, consuming all this information without implementing it. If you're able to take a step back from that, think about the problem, find the resources, and then implement that information to create a solution, you just start accelerating your results.
This is perfect. I'm actually going to take those words to heart, and because I'm just writing down here. I mean, I always make these like tons and tons of notes when I'm doing these interviews with experts like yourself, and it's true. I mean, one of the things the stories I'm telling myself is like, look, I've hired the VAs, I have the team in place, I have everything. Oh, but now I got to train them. So then a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and it's really just delaying my business. Is the bottleneck, as you mentioned, right?
Yep.
And that has to change. So I think there's maybe even a little bit of fear there, of fear of letting go, as you'd say. So thank you for that. That's an incredible tip today. And I think that it's relevant again to doctors, because when I was in practice, that was one of the things that always kept my practice from growing was the fear of hiring someone, hiring that CA when you're so busy that now you're inconveniencing people possibly in your office, and you're bottlenecking your business. So the great conversation today, and as we kind of wrap things up, I'm just going to make sure that we do have that link so they can actually get the audios and okay. Do you have videos as well for doctors?
Yes, I have a 4-part video series as well. So they get to have the MP3s of all the interviews that I did for the Fearless Mindset, a 4-part video series, as well as a one-sheeter that I use to track all of my goals and habits. That it's my framework for how I operate my life from, and I think it'll be tremendously valuable for the listener.
Outstanding. And so listeners, here's the deal. Head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. We'll have a link actually and a web page, and we'll have all these links, clickable links on the web page for our discussion with Peter Scott IV today. Now, if you're listening on your mobile, go ahead and actually open those show notes, and you'll find the clickable links are right there. So you got no excuses. Go ahead and open those up right now, and you can click on those links and head over and take advantage of all of those resources. Definitely check out the Fearless Life experience. I would recommend that. And just start to expand, start to really see, Doc, what is possible and where your fears are holding you back. So, Peter, I got to thank you so much for coming on the TCP podcast today and just bringing it.
Ed, thank you so much. Like I said, it's such a privilege for me to give back to this profession. I have such a passion for chiropractic, having met so many chiropractors through my work with Lifebook, that I hope that there are some tangible nuggets and takeaways in here that can help fuel them to transform their relationship with fear, so it just leads them to go out and live their message and mission in a much bigger way.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.